I'm just waiting on the mayor. Good evening and welcome everyone to Boulder Chamber's annual From Council to Congress Policy Forum. I'm Rachel Friend, Boulder Chamber's Interim Director of Policy Programs, and it is truly my pleasure to welcome you all tonight to hear from our community leaders and learn about recent and upcoming policy changes. A couple housekeeping things. There are restrooms downstairs. There's an elevator on this side if you need help getting up and down the stairs. There's light snacks and hydration in the lobby. And we are going to want you to use your mobile phones during this event so that you can submit questions. So I'm going to give you all the Wi-Fi. It is eTown Guest. And the password is 1535 Boulder with a capital B. So if you all could get out your phones and try that so we can get questions coming in when the time is right, that would be great. And then I want to thank a few people who are not here with us tonight. And I hope that our community leaders will pass along gratitude from all of us in this room for the firefighters and first responders. Some people are outside right now in these grueling conditions and keeping us all safe. There's a lot of emergency response teams, Office of Disaster Management, and other partners. And there are a lot of people that are suffering tonight. So just a moment to have gratitude and send good vibes out to those who are in harm's way. And then I would like to give our sincerest gratitude to our presenting sponsor, Elevations Credit Union. Elevations made the inaugural From Council to Congress event possible. Elevations is an award-winning Colorado financial institution who empowers members with financial education and solutions from checking and savings account to home lending and business banking. To help us get this program going, please help me welcome to the stage Elevations Vice President of Government Affairs and Strategic Partnerships, my friend Dennis Paul. Dennis.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I'll wear my chamber hat just for a minute. Rachel is living in other duties as assigned land. So we had a situation where our advocacy boss had to step back for a little bit, Jonathan Singer, and you came in and you didn't miss a beat. Rachel was with us last week at our board retreat, so we're just thrilled to have you with us. And such a nice transition during this interim period. Well, this was great. So I thought this was going to be a state of the city, but John's turned it into a state of the Western world as best I can tell. So I was actually going to wear my Lebowski 2024 shirt, but I didn't think that would be appropriate to make such a powerful political statement as a sponsor, so I didn't do that. Well, many of you, I recognize, many of you are members of the credit union. Elevations has served the Boulder Valley since 1952. We got our start on the steps of Mackey Auditorium by Ray Johnson, then our finance manager at CU. We've grown significantly. We serve Colorado's Front Range with a full suite of products and services. So we appreciate your membership. Like I said, many of you out there are members. We just know that by the data. I did want to mention Elevations Foundation. So many of you have noticed that we've rebranded. We're now Local Change. And over the course of the last 13 years, our foundation and our membership has provided $2.7 million in emergency aid during times of disaster. We are a relief organization. We're not a recovery organization. So when we put out an ask to our membership, we deploy those funds within days of a disaster. So we're very proud of the work we do, but that is in large part because of our membership. So we work closely with first responders, with our firefighters, with our law enforcement folks. We also work very closely with Boulder County Community Services, Robin Bohannon and her team. And that team does an outstanding job as a fiduciary when we do provide resources to the community. Massive gratitude for our public officials. That would be you guys down there. That's a thankless job on most days, especially in Boulder. Everybody's got an opinion. And if you, I won't say the second half of that little thing. Everybody's got an opinion, and if you agree, you're in great shape. But Mayor Brockett, you've been a great advocate for our organization. We appreciate that a ton. Advocacy is job one. As the board chair this year, we talk a lot about our priorities. And there's no question our membership at the Chamber has a very clear expectation that we advocate on behalf of our businesses. So our advocacy arm, Devin's here. Thank you, Devin, for the work you do. And John, you've put together a crackerjack team, and our membership knows that the products and services we deliver are value adds. That's it. Let's get this show started. Thank you all for coming tonight, and it's a pleasure on behalf of our board of directors to support this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm going to be a little bit repetitive here and also thank our electeds and dignitaries who are with us tonight. I was going to start with my parents, but they got up and left because they, I'm not taking that as an assessment of my performance so far. They realize that their house in Ned is in harm's way, possibly from the new fire. So just another acknowledgement that there's a lot of people that can't be with us tonight. So I'm going to ask that those of you who are named, please stand so we can properly thank you and recognize you. And audience, if we could hold applause till the end, that will move us along. So Boulder mayors, past and present, Leslie Durgan and Aaron Brockett. Boulder City Council members, we're going to hold it. I know they're so great, but honestly, let's just give them one good one at the end. Boulder City Council members, past and present, Jan Burton, Taisha Adams, and Tina Marquis. Thornton Mayor Pro Tem, Karen Bigelow. County Commissioner Claire Levy, our TD Director Lynn Geisinger, State Representative Judy Amabile. Did I miss anyone? Oh, Judy didn't stand. So come on, Judy. Now's the moment to clap. Let's give them all a round of applause. Dennis is correct. That's often a thankless job, so thank you all for all that you do for us. Thank you also to all the business, nonprofit, and community leaders who are here with us tonight. To Boulder Chamber's Board of Directors, with special appreciation to our Community Affairs Council co-chairs, Aaron Spear and Nikhil Mankakar. And thank you also to John Taylor, our tireless CEO. He is truly a community treasure. And thank you to all of you for being with us today on this grueling hot day. And now, to moderate our first panel, it is my pleasure to invite up and pass the baton and microphone to Devin Edgley, Chamber's awesome program policy specialist.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you all tonight. Since your phones are hopefully still nearby, please join our Q&A link through the QR code that's on the screen behind me. At this link, you can submit questions for me to ask panelists, which I will do after they each give opening remarks. Before we begin, I would like to read the Boulder Chamber Land Acknowledgement. The Boulder Chamber acknowledges we are meeting today on the ancestral homelands and unceded territory of Indigenous peoples who have traversed, lived in, and stewarded lands in the Boulder Valley since time immemorial. Those Indigenous nations include the Apache, Arapaho, Cheyenne, Comanche, Kiowa, Pawnee, Shoshone, Sioux, and Ute. We honor and respect the people of these nations and their ancestors, and we recognize that those now living and working on these ancestral lands have a responsibility to acknowledge and address the past and the legacy of oppression that has caused intergenerational trauma to Indigenous peoples and their families. Further, we must not only acknowledge our past, but we must work to build a more just future. We are committed to taking action beyond these words. We pledge to use this land acknowledgement to help inspire education and reflection, and engagement in meaningful actions, in line with the Boulder Chamber's Economic Vitality mission that directly support Indigenous nations, communities, and organizations. Now I will take a brief second to introduce each panelist. Feel free to utilize the program to read more about all of our amazing speakers. We welcome to the stage Boulder Mayor Aaron Brockett, Boulder County Commissioner Claire Levy, and State Representative Judy Amabile. Exactly, exactly. I'm first going to introduce Mayor of Boulder, Aaron Brockett. Given that this program is titled From Council to Congress, we will start with the council perspective. Mayor Brockett. Mayor Brockett was first elected to the City Council in 2015, was re-elected in 2019 and 2021, and then became our first directly elected mayor in 2023. Welcome, Mayor Brockett.
Shall I go?
I'm going to ask the question for you.
Oh, okay.
The question that everyone will answer here on the stage is, what are the things you are proud of accomplishing this year that positively impacted the business community, and what is coming ahead?
Thanks for that. Thanks for that question, and I'm glad that you asked the question that I had been intending to answer. So that's a really good synergy. Well, let me start in terms of the business community. One thing I want to highlight is improvements in permitting and city processes. That sounds maybe dull, but that you all, I think, will appreciate this. So 2 years ago, approximately, the council at that time asked our planning department, hey, when you see inefficiencies or things that could be improved, please bring those back to us so we can fix them. And my good friend, Rachel Friend, was on the council at that time, and we unanimously said, yes, please do that. And you could see a little bit of shock in city staff's eyes. They're like, really, you want us to do that? I'm like, yes, please. And they have brought us back 3 full set of improvements that we've passed unanimously each time that have sped up the permitting process and reduced red tape and slashed some of the unnecessary steps that had kind of accreted over time in the city processes. And I want to call out our planning director, Brad Mueller, who is in the room. Brad, if you could stand up, please, because he's been a real hero in this effort. And you don't often see city government praised on the front page of the newspaper, but just such a thing happened a few weeks ago, which was great to hear, and that was because of Brad and many others' excellent work. Another real success has been the addition of desperately needed affordable housing. And we do this through our partners. So Boulder Housing Partners being a huge one. So hundreds of units of permanently affordable housing have been coming online over the last couple of years, and 1,100 more units are in the pipeline. So that's a great example of collaboration between city staff, city funding, and the private sector and the nonprofit sector. Another partner I want to call out about that is Element Properties. So they actually just created a permanent supportive housing facility called Bluebird on 30th Street, which I had the chance to tour not long ago. And that is an extraordinary project. It was done with some city funds, some state funds, actually some programs that Judy Amable voted for over the last few years. Thank you, Judy. And so there are now 40 people who are living there who 6 months ago were out sleeping on the streets of Boulder. So that's a kind of huge success in terms of improving lives, but also reducing the impact of homelessness in our community as well. So I've been talking to them and say, you know, how can we get a few more of those projects going and look for more things like that coming online. And so, of course, homelessness is a huge topic, and it is, of course, one that we have not solved. But there have been some successes. Along with Bluebird, we brought dozens of other permanent supportive housing units online over the last few years. And we just opened the day shelter at the Boulder Housing Shelter. They just rebranded. All Roads is their name now, but we just opened a day shelter there with their partnership. So huge gratitude to them, giving folks another avenue out of homelessness during those daytime hours. And so another thing I'll mention is about rezonings that we've undertaken, another kind of dull subject, but I think you all get into this kind of a thing. So we've been doing some significant upzonings and rezonings in East Boulder and in the Boulder Junction area to enable hundreds and even thousands of units of additional housing in vibrant mixed-use walkable neighborhoods where currently you have kind of business park monoliths. And of course, there's a role for commercial space, industrial space, and we still want to have plenty of that. But allowing for an evolution of some of those spaces into vibrant and much needed housing, much of which, a good chunk of which will be permanently affordable. And then I'll wrap up by talking about transportation projects, and I may steal a little thunder if you might have been getting to it as well. I was cribbing off of Claire here. But something I'm very, very excited and proud about is that we have recently secured the final funding necessary for bus rapid transit between Boulder and Longmont. And that will start construction, I think it's later this year. That was a partnership between the City of Boulder, Boulder County, and the City of Longmont. and secured tens of millions of dollars of federal funding to make that happen. And it'll include a grade-separated bikeway, which is so important for safety in our community. That's the stretch of highway where biking superstar Magnus White was tragically killed a few months ago, and I hope people are aware of the ride in his honor that's going on soon. And then the other thing is the much lamented missing train to Denver. I can't say that we've 100% got this on track, but it's closer to reality than it ever has been. This has been another great partnership. Claire will talk about it, I'm sure, because she's on the board there. But for the first time in over a decade, I think we have a real promise of partnership with RTD. And Deborah, I'm looking very much forward to your words later on. And the corridor throughout the cities along the corridor, and the state, and the new Front Range Passenger Rail District. And so some other great things that Judy voted for this year has enabled substantial additional funding for that project and transit programs across the state that we'll be benefiting from as well. And then I'll just mention one other thing, which is we're moving forward with our Vision Zero efforts. And I know folks here have been deeply involved in that. And we actually got a $23 million federal grant just recently, one of the largest grants the city has ever received, to increase safety for all users, but particularly those most vulnerable ones, the pedestrians and cyclists. So lots of great work that's been going on, lots of great work to come. The grant funds have been pouring through, so it's an exciting time. But my last thing that I will say is that it's also obviously a concerning and scary time today, in particular with all of the fires that we have going on. So I wanted to thank very much the firefighters and first responders from the city of Boulder who are out there on this incredibly hot day, risking their safety to keep all the rest of us safe. So huge gratitude to them and all the first responders from all the jurisdictions who are out there working hard for us. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mayor Brockett. Thank you for those remarks, Mayor Brockett. Now I will introduce County Commissioner Claire Levy. Claire Levy has called Boulder home since 1986. Commissioner Levy served 4 terms in the state legislature and is now in her first term as a Boulder County Commissioner and will be on the November ballot for a 2nd term. Welcome, Commissioner Levy.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for being here. You may not be aware, but there is a really bright light shining in our eyes, and so I can't see you. And to me, it's hard to talk to an audience when I can't see them, because I really like to communicate when I'm talking. But I want to actually start with a couple of things that aren't responsive to the question. One is, the acknowledgement of the fires that are burning in Boulder County, and in addition to the 1,400 plus or minus acres up north of Lyons, a new fire broke out while I was at the Incident Command Center in Lyons, up by Gross Reservoir. So we don't have a lot of information about that. There are evacuations ordered. The road up Flagstaff just past Gregory Canyon is closed. And so it is a scary time for people. We have a lot of resources. The governor has been engaged. Congressman Neguse and Senator Bennett are both engaged very closely. And so, I want to add my gratitude to everybody else's for what people are doing to keep all of us safe here in Boulder County. And so when Devin sent me the prompt, I had sent her a comment saying, what do you want me to talk about? Because here are the things that counties do. And it was kind of a soup to nuts. Because we're the basic general government for the county, and we deliver human services, and we fund and maintain the jail, and we pay the coroner, and we do open space, and we do roads, and we do all these things. And we're here to talk about what we do for business. And the way I think about this is that a healthy, economically secure county is good for business. And that means having housing that's affordable to the workforce that we need to have in Boulder County. It's having a transportation system that allows people to move around through multimodal means, whether it's in your car if you need to, whether it's through transit, whether it's bike ped, whether it's bike share, car share. So having a functional, well-connected transportation network, taking care of people's needs, their basic needs, so that they can be good parents, so that they can be focused, attentive employees. So here I'm talking about affordable childcare, which we don't have enough of. So it's all the things that create well-being for the people that live here in Boulder County that allow you to be creative entrepreneurs, to be employers, to go about your business of doing business. So if we're doing our job, you shouldn't have to worry about a lot of these things. We have not solved it all, but I think it's my job to be your partner to create a county where these things work. So I do want to mention some specific things on the affordable housing front. Thanks to the voters, we do have, for the first time ever, dedicated funding for affordable housing in Boulder County. And that money will start flowing January 1st, 2025. It's going to be around $16 million a year. And that will be a total game changer for our ability to meet the affordable housing goals in the Regional Housing Roundtable partnership, but also beyond that to, let's try to be a little more aggressive with what we're able to do. So that is a really exciting development here in Boulder County, and we'll be using those funds to leverage the state and federal funds that are available for affordable housing. Boulder County is working on a 400-unit multi-phase development out in Lafayette called Willoughby Corner, and that's where we're putting so many of our resources right now. On the subject of transportation, Boulder County does a lot of our work through DRCOG, which is the Denver Regional Council of Governments, which is how we are able to pull in the state and federal funds that we need. The mayor mentioned Highway 119, the Diagonal, that was through repeated efforts, through repeated grant applications to the Federal Highway Administration and the federal, the US DOT. We finally were able to get the last $25 million that we need, and what we're going to be able to do is, Aaron mentioned the grade-separated 12-foot wide bikeway down the median. That's going to really make it possible to actually commute by bike between Boulder and Longmont. And then in partnership with RTD, we'll be having what's called Q-jump lanes that will allow buses to go to the head of the line at all the intersections, and that's going to facilitate the BRT there. We're also partnering with the Chamber and with the City of Boulder to have a gun barrel circulator shuttle. We were able to get some money through the Federal Transit Administration that we'll be using for that project. We are, we had the exciting news also through the Denver Regional Council of Governments that we were successful in a $200 million grant made possible by the Inflation Reduction Act and the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant program that they developed that will be bringing $200 million to the Denver metro area. And this will be for electrification, it'll be for energy efficiency improvements in homes, it'll be for additional EV charging stations. The reason I mention this is because I have to brag about our Office of Sustainability, Climate Action, and Resilience, OSCAR, which really took the laboring oar on writing that grant application, and I'm really proud of them for that. I'm going to mention two more things. I'm not keeping time, and I can't see the timekeeper, so, but just two more things because I want to make sure there's time for your questions. One is that, talking about the business climate, talking about the challenge of unhoused population. Mental and behavioral health are very much on everyone's minds. And I was hopeful that we would be on the ballot this year with a measure to fund behavioral health services in Boulder County. It didn't look like the right year to do that. So we're going to take some time to go out, be in the community, really make the case for the urgent need for these funds. And that this is not just about unhoused people. This is about what I was talking about earlier, just the health and well-being of the people in Boulder County who have experienced incredible stresses and strains in their lives, and whose very real urgent mental health needs are not being met. So we're going to be out in the community. We're working on a whole series of presentations that we can make to really elevate this issue and hopefully garner the support that we'll need to bring new resources. And by new resources, that's polite talk for a tax increase because we can't fund it from our existing resources. The very last thing I want to mention is that we are kicking off, this is ARPA funded, so we have 2 years of funding available, Nurturing Futures. And this is our version of a direct cash assistance. The application will open on August 7th. It'll be open until the 28th. And this will allow families that are under 30% of area median income, so they're under $40,000 a year, that have a child under the age of 4 at the time of application, to receive $300 a month. And it's unrestricted. Use it for childcare, use it for groceries, use it to repair your car, use it to pay down your credit card balance, use it for whatever you need. And we have confidence and we trust that people know how to use that money, and that will give them just that little extra breathing room so that maybe they can think about going back to school and finishing that degree that they had to stop. So I wanted to mention that because all of this stuff allows people in Boulder County to take care of themselves so that they can also contribute to our community. So I'll close with that and look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Levy. I will now introduce House Representative Judy Amabile. Judy Amabile has served as Colorado State Representative in District 49 since 2020 and recently won the Democratic primary for Colorado Senate in District 18. Rep. Amabile is chair of the House of Business Affairs and Labor Committee. Welcome, Representative Amabile.
Okay, thank you. I feel like I need a booster seat. Well, all right, I won't do that, but I hope you guys can see me over my nameplate. So I'm Judy Amabile, and I've lived here in Boulder since 1975. Not that it really matters, but just FYI. And I was John Tayer's landlady, briefly. He had 4 law school buddies and himself. We broke the occupancy limit, and somebody said to me, "What are you doing renting to 5 lawyers? You must have lost your mind." But it actually worked out pretty well, and I was on the chamber board when we hired John for the Boulder Chamber. So a little bit of that. I have owned a business here, did own a business here for 25 years doing manufacturing. We made a water bottle called Polar Bottle, and we sold it in 2018, and I don't know, somehow I ended up in the legislature after that. And, you know, sometimes you do have to question your life choices. But maybe today isn't the day for that. I don't know. So I have been, for the last 2 years, the chair of the Business and Labor Committee. And that has been a really, it's an incredible privilege to be able to do that, especially after only 2 years. And the first year, we kind of floundered. We did kill some bills that were bad for business. And people still ask me about those. And some of my progressive colleagues are not happy about that. But I do really want us to strike this balance between labor and business. And it is the Business and Labor Committee. And there is no business without labor, and there is no labor without business. So we do have to figure out on a day-to-day basis, what are these bills actually going to do to the businesses that they're intended to either, well, they're always intended to do good. That's, let's be clear about that. But sometimes there are unintended consequences that we don't necessarily understand at the outset. So this year, I started a thing of meeting every other week, with 1 week with business and the next week with labor. And the hope was that I could help them understand each other's concerns on the legislation that was coming forward. I could help them maybe make some amendments or compromises, and that we would get good bills through that everybody could live with. And I thought we'd actually done a pretty good job of that, except for that the governor then vetoed 3 of those very important bills that came out of the Business and Labor Committee, so we somehow missed the mark. But we did also get forward a lot of very meaningful legislation that I feel really good about, and we also stopped some legislation that really wasn't good this year as well. In terms of like my personal, sometimes you have to measure your session by what you got done, and sometimes you have to take a hard look at what you didn't get done. And this session, I did have a bill that was came out of a sunset about banking and credit unions, banks and credit unions. And I know we have some credit union members here today. I think there might also be some bankers here. But it was a very simple proposition that a credit union should be able to buy a bank if the bank is for sale and it's an open market, and banks can also make an offer, and there is a whole regulatory framework around that. And we were not successful at getting that done. And so, but we had a really good conversation, and I think we're poised to get it done this year. And the other thing that I was really put a lot of heart and soul into was a bill around helping small liquor stores. And they've been really hurt by this, our ballot measure that allows the sale of wine in grocery stores. And I don't know if any of you have been to the grocery store since that happened, but there's like wine everywhere. It's wine-a-palooza. And there's wine next to the diapers. There's wine mixed in with the candy bars. It's kind of too much. And so the bill was hoping to rein some of that in, and also to make sure that we have some big box stores that can sell hard alcohol as well as beer and wine, and we wanted to limit that type of license. And oh my God, somebody had told me once, don't ever run a liquor bill, but did I listen? No. And I spent a lot of hours with people just screaming at me, and we didn't get the bill done either. It died in the Senate, in the Finance Committee. And we'll be bringing that back again this year too, because it is important that we do that, I think. Some of the stuff that we did that was really good, well, one thing, I work a lot on fire insurance, and today is a good day to talk about that because a whole bunch of people are going to be needing that to be pretty robust. And why does it matter to the bigger business community? Well, first of all, it does drive up rates. These fires today are going to have an impact on rates going forward for years. And you also want, when you're the victim of a disaster like this, you want to make sure you're getting what you thought you were getting. And we've run a bunch of legislation that is directed at that. But also, we're doing a study about how do we keep the rates down. So that should be done by January, and we'll bring some legislation this year to implement the policies that are in that study. Because HOAs in particular and lodging properties have been hit with these enormous increases, tenfold. So there's a little lodge up in Estes Park, which I represent, and their insurance went from $10,000 to $100,000. And as a business, you just can't absorb that big of an increase on one line item, at least not easily. So, and also it is about affordable housing. If the property tax I'm sorry, I segued into the next thing. If the insurance is so much money, that has an impact on the affordability of that housing. And then the other thing was property tax that we worked on, and we did bring down the assessment rate for commercial property. And we absolutely needed to do that, and I believe we need to do more on that front because you all are paying a massive amount of property tax on these commercial properties. And whether you own the building or not, you well know that you're paying that through your triple net lease. So it's important that we continue to do that. The other thing we did is we lowered the sales tax and we lowered the income tax. So for those of you who don't like taxes, it was a good year. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Amabile. Now for the fun part, let's go into your audience questions for our panel using the QR code. If you're using note cards by chance, instead, please get them to the end of your row for our ambassador, Sarah Pike, and she will pick those up. So we will start asking audience questions from the iPad, which will be here shortly. Well, thank you. Your questions, all right. This one is for anyone on the panel. In each of your respective areas of influence, what is your impression of business, community, and economic needs, and what are you doing to address those identified needs? Which you kind of spoke on, but if you have anything else to elaborate on, please, any of you can take the mic and answer.
So I'll just, I mean, we did touch on it, but I think one of the big things is staffing. And I think we're starting to see that there's some relief. I heard that the big bubble of not being able to hire people is kind of over, but it still is a big issue, and the cost for staffing has gone way up. And so I think that's something that is worth taking a look at. And we have done a bunch of things at the state to provide free education. That's the other thing we did this past session is free first 2 years of college for anyone whose family is earning less than $90,000 a year in order to get more people through the pipeline, the talent pipeline, so that you all can hire them. We also did a lot of apprenticeship programs, put money into that, and are continuing to fund education for trades and professions that are in high need, like mental health providers. So that's, I think, one of the things we really also need to focus on.
Thank you so much, Representative Mobley. Commissioner Levy.
Thanks. So in addition to what Rep. Amabile said, you know, I'll bring it back to housing again, because what we hear at Boulder County in our hiring, and I don't think we're in a position that's any different from those of you who are also trying to hire, is that people can't afford to live in Boulder. And so they, you know, when they are considering a job, what they're weighing is how far is my commute going to be, and how much of a hassle is that going to be, and if, you know, if the commute, you know, is too burdensome, they're going to opt to look elsewhere. And so this is one reason we are focusing so much on affordable housing. You know, and the housing transportation, you know, the two go together, and those two are the largest parts of most people's budgets. So the more that we can, you know, facilitate affordable housing and multimodal options, I think the better the business climate is going to be. At some point, I hope we can get back to this issue of property taxes. There was some applause over lowering the commercial assessment rate, and I totally understand that. As a county, our general fund is property tax, and we are seeing increasing need for human services, increasing need for all kinds of services that we deliver, and the increased costs of hiring. And I live in Boulder. My house value went up quite a bit. But we really have to look at what this means for the ability of property tax funded governments to deliver the services that people are wanting, and and get creative on how do we strike that balance. And if so much reliance on property tax is not the right thing to do, we can't just take it away. We have to substitute it with something else.
Please, Mayor Brockett.
So, this go off. So in addition to the process improvements that I mentioned earlier, I just want to call out childcare, which is crucial to businesses, because if your employees don't have reliable childcare, you won't have a reliable employee to come into the office. We've had for many years, we've funded a childcare assistance fund, and that's an important part of our budget. But then I'll just also note that using ARPA funds, we bumped that up to another level over the last few years to make sure that childcare businesses stayed in business and that people could stay in their jobs. And then just before I finish, I just wanted to mention that in addition to my phenomenal colleagues, Taisha Adams and Tina Marquis, we were joined by Tara Weiner, Councilmember Tara Weiner, who just walked in.
Thank you, Mayor Brockett. I have one really important question left. It is for all of you. I'm more comfortable with the iPad now, so. Okay. Wildfires are a looming threat, literally and figuratively today. Are we in a better position now than we were in 2021 in terms of wildfire responsiveness? How so? What steps are being taken to keep us safer? Do we want to start? Okay.
I think I'll start on that one. Yes, we are in a better position, just because with every major disaster of any kind, we learn and we make changes. And I think that the 2021 date is a reference to the Marshall Fire. And so there was an after-action report, a very exhaustive look at coordination, communication, how were resources distributed, how were warnings pushed out to people, evacuation routes. And we, in partnership, well, I don't know if it's an actual partnership or whether we're just, whatever. Yeah, let's call it a partnership, collaboration. So, people were very confused about evacuation because the county used a different system than the city. And so we're now using the same system so that people don't have to go to multiple platforms to figure out where this fire is going. We also just yesterday morning approved a major grant to redo our outdoor warning sirens so that they can actually deliver more messages. People were saying, how come we didn't get a warning of this fire through those outdoor sirens? Well, they were only available for certain weather events. And so we're going to have, throughout the county, a much better ability to warn people about fires. We've deployed, again, thanks to some federal grant money that we were able to get, some cameras that are using AI to be watching the mountains, certain strategic areas in the mountains, for anything that looks like smoke. And to, through a regenerative process of looking at it and figuring out, oh no, that's just somebody's barbecue grill, or that's not smoke, that's steam. It's learning to distinguish between concerning smoke and unconcerning, barbecues or steam. So we're getting much better at really early warning and notification of fires. So I think those are the three areas where I think we're doing a lot of really great work. And we, Boulder County and the City of Boulder, partner in our Office of Disaster Management. Mike Chard, who heads that office, is jointly funded by the city and the county. And if you've never seen them work, or you've never had a briefing by Mike about how this whole process works, you should have that. He will make those presentations, and I think that would go a long way towards putting people at ease about just the fact that it's systematic, it's methodical, it's coordinated.
Thanks for that, Claire. And so a lot of that is a collaboration, so I won't repeat anything that Claire said. But when we renewed our climate action plan tax a little over a year ago, we included a significant chunk of money for wildfire preparedness as well at the city level. So we're funding programs to reduce risk in individual homes, but also kind of system-wide. We have a new policy to mow the kind of first 50 feet of open space areas that are right adjacent to the city limits to kind of prevent fuels from building up right next to houses. Our emergency evacuation plans have grown and evolved and improved. There's a new text option from the Everbridge emergency system, which my phone has been blowing up over the last couple of days. But it's important to keep apprised of those things. So evacuation, prevention, and notification are all things that we've been working hard on. And I won't claim that we've perfected it all. The work to improve will continue, but we've made some progress for sure. Oh, and also, Judy, do you want to talk about the state helicopter? Okay, there you go. I'll let you talk about that.
Okay, thanks. So I'll just start with that. I think in many ways we are in much better shape. And the state purchased one Firehawk helicopter, and that was busy today in the Jefferson County fire. And it is our own resource. We don't rent it. We don't need to borrow it from anybody. It's here. And we have also purchased a second one, and that's on the way. But you can't just buy a Firehawk helicopter off the shelf. It takes a couple of years to get one. So, so that stuff is in process. We did set up the Office of Climate Resiliency, and they are busy doing work, on planning and on making things better. We have learned a lot from the disasters we've had. We're working on how people recover from a fire, and that is through insurance, but also one of my colleagues, Kyle Brown, ran a bill about not allowing price gouging on rentals after a disaster, and also on how your mortgage lender interacts with your fire insurance. So, I mean, these are in the weeds things, but they are all going to help. And then the bill on underinsurance that was motivated by the Marshall Fire, and the bill on protections for people who lose their homes in one of these disasters in terms of their alternative living expenses and when and how they get paid out. I would say, too, though, that we're in worse shape because this year is hotter than last year, which was hotter than the year before, which was hotter than the year before that. And we are in the middle of a drought. And, today, to be up there, I spent a lot of time up in Larimer County today, and to see the fire there, to know the fire in Lyons, to be looking at that, and then to hear at the end of this long day, another fire. And these are 3-4 fires here, but there are fires burning all over the state of Colorado, all over California and Canada, and all over the country. And so we really have to actually try to figure out if there are some things we can do to turn back the clock a little bit on climate. And until we do that, we aren't going to be safer year over year. We're going to be less safe. And then I just want to say one thing about the evacuation plans. We really have a lot of work to do on that. So we have all this construction going on up at Gross Dam, and I've been hearing from constituents up there. They're terrified because one of the two routes for them to evacuate is often closed because of the construction. And today, what they have been telling us might happen, which is a fire, and then they have no evacuation route because maybe they live near the route that's closed and they're blocked to get to the route that's open. And up in Larimer County, I have a constituent who is in the evacuation area, and she she's been telling us for a year now, I don't have a way out if there's a disaster. I have just this one dirt road, and if anything happens, I'm stuck. And she did get out today, but case in point, we need to do a better job of these evacuation plans and make sure that they include everybody. And so I know that people are working on that, and I think we're making some progress, but there's still a lot of work to do.
I did want to just add, Mayor Brockett reminded me that I didn't state the obvious, which was another thing that the voters did in 2022 was approve a wildfire mitigation, a 1 cent sales tax for wildfire mitigation. We have been putting that out in the community, and mitigation, you know, because of the factors that Rep. Amabile mentioned, you know, it's just going to get worse. But we're making those funds available both on the plains to do for individual homeowners and to do neighborhood level needs assessments for you know, what needs to be done to harden your home or to have fire-resistant landscaping, and also up in the mountains to do forest thinning and forest health work. So we're putting, you know, it's between $8 and $10 million a year at sales tax, so it fluctuates a little bit, but between $8 and $10 million a year into wildfire mitigation because, you know, this is the world we're in. We may not be able to stop the fire, but we can do our best to prevent one.
Thank you, Commissioner Levy. On that note, thank you so much for all of your great questions, and thank you so much to the panelists. It was great. And I would like to excuse our panelists and then welcome back Rachel Friend.
I thought Judy Amabile looked a little bit like Post Malone in the Fortnite video that whole time. Did anyone else have that experience? It was awesome. Thank you for tolerating the lettering on your faces. I also wanted to acknowledge that James Thompson with Senator Bennett's office is here, and also a late arrivee is outgoing Senate President Steve Benberg. And I think he may deserve like a standing ovation. He's done his time. He's about to be free. He did a great job for us. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here and all that you've done. Okay, thanks to our panel. I'm sorry that we didn't have time for more questions. I had like 7 for each of you myself. So I hope that we will hear from you more again. And next up, we are excited to have Joe Neguse, Congressman Joe Neguse's office here to update us on the Congress portion of the evening. Like so many people who couldn't be here with us tonight, he's tending to unprecedented events, both in terms of fires and I don't know how to term what's happening in Washington, D.C. in July 2024, but he's busy with big things. So here on his behalf is Emma Marion, Congressman Neguse's Director of Community Affairs. Emma, would you like to come up to the stage and let people see you so they know who to say hi to at the end of the event and direct questions to? Good to put names with faces. And say a few words.
Do I look like Post Malone?
If you want to look like Post Malone.
I want to look like Post Malone too. Yeah. Hi everyone, Emma Marion. I'll let the congressman's video be the remarks because he speaks better than me. But I'm his Director of Community Affairs, so I'll be around if anyone has any questions, wants to chat after, if there's anything our office can do for you. So yeah.
We love your office. Okay, with that, we are going to hit play on a video from our beloved congressperson, Joe Neguse.
Hello, everybody. Joe Neguse here. I am proud to represent Colorado's 2nd Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives and to represent the city of Boulder and Boulder County in the Congress and serve as the Assistant Minority Leader of the U.S. House. I want to say thank you, first and foremost, to my good friend and colleague, John Teyer, for his enthusiasm, his passion, and his strong leadership at the helm of the Boulder Chamber. We couldn't be more grateful to you, John. And of course, I am delighted that you extended an invitation for me to come by and say a few words virtually today. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person for what I know will be a very robust 2024 Policy Summit, a summit that I know will ultimately culminate in positive policy changes for the city of Boulder and far beyond. But nonetheless, I'm glad that I could join you all for just a moment to say welcome and to say thank you in advance for the work that you all are doing today and every day in our wonderful community. The Boulder Chamber is an incredibly important part of the Boulder ecosystem, a valued and storied partner in the Boulder economy, ensuring that we unlock economic growth and ultimately helping to find ways that we can break down obstacles that may be hampering and hindering small business economic growth. I'm proud that we've been able to be a partner in that work with all of you and, of course, the variety of different businesses and service professionals that you represent each and every day in our community. It's been an exciting time. It's been an eventful time. I will say I couldn't be more grateful for the partnership right now because, in my view, the synergies that are happening in Boulder, Colorado are perhaps more pronounced than they have been in recent memory. Just to give you a few examples, of course, recently, we celebrated together the selection by the Department of Commerce of the Rocky Mountain West as a quantum hub, which myself, Senator Hickenlooper, Senator Bennett, and of course, our governor and Boulder resident, Governor Polis, worked very hard to secure. What that means as a practical matter is unlocking $40 million of funding as we seek to lead the quantum revolution in our country and beyond. And of course, what better place than Boulder, Colorado to lead that effort, given our long and storied history of scientific breakthroughs, going back to the foundation and formation of NIST and JILA many, many decades ago, right here in our hometown. And of course, the many Nobel Prize winners who call Boulder home. All in all, we have everything that we need to ultimately be a leader in quantum innovation, as we have been for generations to come, which is why I am so excited about that work. It's also why I'm so excited about the CHIPS and Science Act, which we were ultimately able to get across the finish line just 2 short years ago. And to now see so many of the investments that were allocated in that bill coming to fruition, including right here at home in Boulder County. The final example I will mention, because I think it's a testament to the collaboration and the spirit of collaboration that is alive and well in Boulder. Of course, in just a few months, we will be marking the solemn 3-year anniversary of the Marshall Fire, a fire that devastated so many homes, neighbors, friends, family members, and businesses in our community. The Chamber and so many small businesses stood up and rose to the occasion, ultimately, when we needed you the most. So, all in all, I couldn't be more grateful for all the work that you've done and the work that I know you will continue to do. And I hope you know that our door is always open to visit with you about important matters of public policy, issues that small businesses are facing in our community, and ways in which we can help solve them. Thanks so much, and we look forward to our continued partnership. Take care.
I feel like I'm objective when I say that I think we have the best congressperson in the whole United States of America. So thank you to your office and to Joe Neguse for everything he does. And now it is my honor to welcome Deborah Johnson for our keynote address. Deborah has been serving as General Manager and CEO of Denver's Regional Transportation District, or RTD as we know it, since 2020. And I would like to add that the Chamber is a proud supporter of RTD and this year's debrucing ballot measure, which you're welcome to ask me, Devin, John, or anyone at the Chamber questions about. We do hope that you will also be supportive of that measure. Deborah serves a population of over 3 million potential riders. She's the first woman to lead RTD in its more than half-century history. She previously served as Deputy CEO of Long Beach Transit, Chief Operations Officer at the LA County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, as well as several other C-suite positions at transit agencies in San Francisco and Washington. Please remember, as you're listening, to submit your questions through the QR code. And with that, welcome Deborah.
Well, Rachel, thank you very kindly for that introduction. As introduced, I'm Deborah Johnson and have the pleasure of serving as the General Manager and Chief Executive Officer of the Regional Transportation District. Please know it is my pleasure to be here this afternoon, especially after that fabulous panel with Mayor Brockett, Commissioner Levy, Rep. Amabile, as well as the virtual presentation that we had from Congressman Neguse. I commend the Boulder Chamber, thank you, John Tehr, and all of your dynamic staff for hosting this inaugural policy forum. I recognize that policies enacted at all levels of government have substantial impact on businesses and the communities as a whole. And I am excited that so many people are assembled here today recognizing that we are collectively plagued with climate change, and as we just heard about all the fires in this immediate subregion. I have to tell you, I am not surprised a bit to see such interest in civic involvement. My staff and I have engaged with many of you in this room and have forged strong, cooperative partnerships. This subregion is very vocal in stating what is needed, and I commend you for that. I often say that closed mouths don't get fed, so if you want to eat, you got to open your mouth, right? And you all do an excellent job advocating for your members and constituents. Thank you for inviting me today to talk about transit, what's happening at RTD, as well as challenges and opportunities before the agency. Well, I could literally talk for hours about things all associated with transit on a multitude of topics within that greater umbrella. I'll keep my remarks to a handful of areas, knowing the time has been allotted for questions afterwards, and really that's what I want to be able to address, what you all want to hear. This afternoon is my intention to describe the current transit landscape and how transit service delivery is being shaped across the country. I will also speak about the services RTD is delivering to Boulder, as well as some of the policy changes that emerged from the 2024 state legislative session. And I will provide you with the most recent details regarding the Northwest Rail peak service feasibility study. So let's get into it. To start, as I referenced, challenges and opportunities. I often say you literally and figuratively cannot spell the word challenge without change. And so with that, transit has evolved in recent years. This is my 32nd year of working in transit, and the transit CEOs in my kitchen cabinet agree with me that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought transit into a new era. As business owners, as advocates, I imagine you have introduced operational changes to your respective businesses where possible, as remote and hybrid work schedules were introduced into our common vernacular. The changing future of work is an important topic that will shape how RTD services will be delivered moving forward as transit is interwoven into the communities that we serve. While the pandemic has brought about many changes throughout society, one of the most enduring is the large increase in remote work, a shift to fewer days working in a traditional office setting. According to an article published by NASDAQ in January of this year, Boulder ranked number 13 out of cities nationwide for the highest percentage of employees working remotely. Further data has been published showing that Colorado has the second highest remote work percentage in the country, behind the state of Maryland. And Denver is among the top 3 cities nationwide in terms of having the fewest employees returning to central cores or business districts, or literally put downtowns. For an agency created to support commuters, RTD has adjusted its service delivery to reflect a change in customers' travel behavior. More people are using transit services on the weekends to access activity centers for recreation and social engagement. Travel patterns have shifted in other ways as well. Whereas previously, post-pandemic, when I was coming up in this industry, we used to say we're only as good as our last rush hour. Because weekday ridership peaked during morning and evening commute times. RTD typically experiences a steady ridership increase throughout the morning, followed by a similar steady decrease throughout the afternoon and hours, right? Think about Barney and Fred in the Flintstones. You know, he'd pull up, it was yabba dabba doo, and it was time to go. Nowadays, Barney and Fred can come many times of the day. And so as we think about what that means, we have to change our mindset about the service delivery. And moreover, financial analysts predict a permanent post-pandemic decrease in ridership of 15%. That will not be reclaimed as more access across the nation due to the shift in our working culture, i.e., the remote work factor. Suffice to say, remote work has introduced a lasting change that has a profound impact on the sustainability of public transport and how it should be restructured to provide the greatest value to customers. I see this reality here in our region, and industry groups and academics who are studying this shift are seeing similar patterns. I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a moment. I would state that ridership for ridership's sake should not be the sole goalpost upon which we judge transit agencies from a performance vantage point. Rather, transit agencies should instead measure success based on the value that they deliver to communities they serve in terms of enhanced equity and mobility, access to opportunity, economic impact, and other such factors. Because if we think back in time, just about 4 years ago, public transport was the vehicle, pun intended, that were getting people to those critical jobs, getting individuals to drugstores and grocery stores, and those individuals that were in the midst of working during that time when we were queuing up to go into a grocery store with our mask on because there was limited abilities in which to do so since we were actually staying at home to prevent the further spread of the virus. And so as we talk about what it is that we have to do, we have to think in those terms. What may have worked well once before, we can't just rest on our laurels and say that works. I'm gonna put a pole and a flag out front and people are gonna flock to a bus stop. What is it that we can better do today to address the needs of mobility? My team and I have given serious thought to what customers need from RTD, and the global health emergency brought a sharper focus to those considerations. Now, I recognize that the public decides whether to use RTD based on what services are offered, when and where they need it, and whether they feel personally safe and secure using the agency's services and facilities, and whether they believe that the fare they pay is a good value for the service provided. But going back to what I said, transit is interwoven into the fabrics of the communities that we serve. And as we talk about transit is unsafe, as I look at headlines across the country, we have to think whatever is happening in a municipality is going to spill over into transit because we are a part of said community. And so I am interested in ensuring that we can provide safe, from a personal vantage point, operational vehicle as well. However, I alone can't do that. And when I say I, it's sort of collective, even though it's singular in the sense that members of RTD, we have our board chair sitting here as well, Eric Davidson, and we have conversations relative to what that is, because I'm not a member of law enforcement, I'm not a licensed clinical social worker, nor am I a drug counselor, but I recognize that people are seeking refuge on public rights of way. And the operative word, and what I have the pleasure of doing, because I've been called to this, because I enjoy being a public servant, is that word, public. As a public servant, I'm delivering public transportation. So as we talk about that value add, I know that we have to do more. And so in the course of the past couple of years, RTD's Transit Police Department has been a focus of agency efforts following a peer review that the agency commissioned back in 2021 related to the agency's policing model. RTD's internal sworn police force is growing at an accelerated pace, which enables officers to be placed and dispatched on geographic assignments. Transit police introduced an overnight team in May of this year, which means that our department, small but mighty, now has officers policing 24/7. This fact enables the agency's own officers to be sent on calls, which means RTD's employees and the public are always their top priority. And so we have the ability to foster a more welcoming transit environment. Last week, it was announced that all of our agency buses have live look-in capability added, which means our public safety dispatchers can access video footage in real time in the event of an emergency on board a revenue vehicle. This feature is already on commuter rail and has begun to be added to all of our agency's light rail cars, which has a target completion date of 2027. We have about 20 that have been completed at this juncture. With all these changes for the good, I, with the support of my teammates, are making decisions with employee and public safety in mind. Now, shifting to fare payment, one of the flagship initiatives that was implemented earlier this year is the system-wide fare study and equity analysis recommendations that yielded a new fare structure. This impactful project involved input from all of you, for which I am grateful. RTD worked intentionally with community groups across the region, including many representing people who have been underrepresented in similar studies. The aim of the project was to create a fare structure that was simple, equitable, and affordable. The study concluded last summer, and with approval of a new fare structure by the Board of Directors in July of last year as well, it was implemented in January of 2024. So fares were lowered across the board, meaning all of our fare categories for the first time in the agency history, and discounts were expanded at a time when transit agencies across the nation were increasing fares. For eligible individuals, the cost of a monthly transit pass in 2024 is now $27. That's incredible and potentially life-changing, because there are some individuals that are reliant upon transit, and there's others that may use it for discretionary purposes. It gives one the opportunity to make a decision, am I going to leave my car at home if in fact I have the means to one? And as we talk about the values for those that are 65 and better, those are discounts as well, and individuals with disabilities, Medicare recipients, and customers that are enrolled in RTD's discount income-based program, which we have called the LIVE program. The fare equity analysis in the study as well also resulted in a pilot program to offer zero fare for youth age 19 and under. While pilot programs are typically permitted to run for 6 months, and that's due to the fact that we're recipients of federal dollars and we have to adhere to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, specifically Title VI, I personally sought and received a waiver for this 6-month cap from the Federal Transit Administration, enabling the agency to offer zero youth fares for a period of 12 months, because we all know a school year isn't just for 6. And we didn't want to disrupt the school year. We wanted to be able to garner impact to discern whether or not this was truly working and was it a viable program to continue. I am pleased to announce that just last night, the RTD Board of Directors approved an action that extends zero fare for youth indefinitely. Yes, thank you. That's something we should all be excited about as we invest in future generations, because it gives them access to education and opportunities, and I might say, creates or helps develop and cultivate a good environmental citizen as we talk about sustainability, especially, as I said, in light of what we're plagued with currently in this moment in time. As some of you may be aware as well, results from this fare study and equity analysis simplified pricing for the EcoPass program and lowered contract minimums. I would be remiss to say that we are able also to offer this program because of the work that the state legislature did this past session, where RTD, if it offers this program for an entire year, basically can recoup $5 million to help supplement those fares that we would lose at the fare box. So next, let's talk about the services RTD delivers to the Boulder sub-region. As mentioned, the leaders in this room participate with RTD in a manner that goes above and beyond. And while I recognize we may not always agree, when we don't, we're not disagreeable in that regard. It's more or less leaning in, trying to figure out what we can do with the means in which RTD as an agency has. So I want to say thank you for placing a priority on public transit. The funding that you invest provides a direct benefit to communities. So for instance, the HOP route has been well received by the city of Boulder. RTD continues to contribute more than $1 million annually to the service's overall operations. RTD delivers 15-minute frequency on the Flatiron Flyer, the agency's regional commuter bus service between Denver and Boulder. The FF delivers a positive impact to the region as a whole, not just the city of Boulder or Boulder County. Boulder leaders have asked RTD to reinstate trips to Route GS, and I am happy to say we did so last fall. RTD is looking to reinstate Route AB in January of 2025. So that will include a pattern that operates between downtown Boulder Station to US 36 and Table Mesa Station in morning and evening peak periods, and would replicate some of the service previously provided by the FF4. My colleagues in service planning have worked on a myriad of on-time performance improvement for local routes in Boulder and Longmont. You're likely aware that RTD continues to what I qualify as the new P3, a people power problem. The agency needs more qualified operators, mechanics, maintenance of way. Those are the individuals that are protecting and monitoring and maintaining our rights of way, vehicle cleaning and maintenance, and other frontline staff. What you may not be aware of, it's difficult for us to find that talent because unlike you heard in my bio, I've had the opportunity to work at different transit agencies across the country. I'm accustomed to having different transit agencies within my immediate area. And here, we're the only intermodal transit agency in the state of Colorado. So when we talk about somebody that knows how to rewire catenary for our overhead system that powers our light rail, in some instances commuter rail, we are really having to look at people and train them up as opposed to them coming from a different transit property in a neighboring community being ready to work. And so with that, that's not an excuse. I'm just stating where we are and collectively asking you, if you know somebody that wants to work at RTD, tell them to reach out. And so with that, just send them our way to rtd-denver.com to apply. And so the agency has developed a strategic initiative. In light of what I said, we're working on it by developing a strategic initiative related to employee recruitment and retention. Now, one thing that we are having a problem with, getting back to a welcoming transit environment, when we are putting somebody in a bus, it's their mobile office and they're out there alone, not everybody is a good actor. And they are faced with some adverse impacts. And we have provided hiring bonuses and we do have a pretty good benefit package. But sometimes all money isn't good money. And so that's why we're focusing on different techniques to ensure that our operators, when they're in their mobile offices, know how to leverage de-escalation. And that's why the live look-in system that I just referenced that we announced last week to have our dispatchers and our communications centers be able to look into the buses so we can provide eyes and ears and help mitigate any unforeseen circumstances. And so as we talk about those programs, it's essential, especially for me, to provide a work culture in which newly hired employees want to stay and thrive. Recent hiring turnover figures would indicate that this recruitment and retention effort has been effective. That said, I am hopeful that starting next year, RTD will be in a better place in this regard. And what that means is when that happens, we will be able to start implementing and reinstating services you have sought collectively, such as the increase on the Route NB, restored trips on the Route LX, and additional adjustments to the FF. One point to which that RTD is acutely aware is that we as a transit agency cannot be all things to all people and communities, as we are the RNRTD, which stands for regional. However, it was the legislature's intent in 1969 for RTD to serve as the mass transit agency for the entire region. In keeping with that notion, I am cognizant that communities may be equipped in some instances better equipped, to meet local mobility needs through transportation pilots of their own design. To this end, RTD has established a partnership program with a dedicated annual budget to support local projects and an equitable, standardized process for intake and evaluation. The first round of funding for our partnership program included $2 million annually for 2024, 2025, and 2026 for a total of $6 million. The second round of funding, for which the selected projects will be announced in August, includes an additional $6 million spanning 2025, 2026, and 2027. The Chamber has been a big supporter, and I'm looking out at John because I remember when he invited me out here and we went and he was telling me about the idea about the gun barrel shuttle, and I'm proud to stay here and say, hey, look, we made it happen, right? And so with that, the gun barrel shuttle is going to be launching soon. If you're not familiar with the project, Boulder County will assume management of the shuttle service, which will be operated by a third-party private service provider for microtransit operations in 2025. Many of you probably know the Gun Barrel neighborhood is currently a transit desert. And this new type of service is more oriented toward the development through that area. It's more or less like a program that will enable us, as people learn more about the opportunities for that connectivity, whereby RTD can look in a couple of years with the growing ridership and the usage to say, hey, perhaps it's better if we had, you know, a bus, or maybe an articulated bus, which is the one with the accordion in the middle, as we look at more people utilizing it. But we have to first discern where the need is and then work cooperatively to address those mobility needs. And so as we look forward to that aspect, we're talking about other development that could come to pass. And also of note with this project, it is the eventual first and last mile connection. It will provide that to the new State Highway 119 BRT service, which begins construction this year, and that was referenced earlier. So now let's turn to the recent legislative session. As I referenced previously, the 2024 session produced policy changes and funding that set the stage for positive developments to be implemented at RTD. As I noted, the Zero Fare for Youth is something that I can't tell you that I'm so excited about that, because it was something that I really was pushing, and I had the support of the board, recognizing that all of us aren't born on a level playing field. In order to basically seize opportunities, first you have to have a means in which to access that opportunity. So starting with our youth, on the heels of what we heard from Rep. Amabile in reference to first 2 years of college, if you're making less than $90,000, that really goes hand in hand as we think about our future generations. So I often say, as we talk about legislation, more specifically with transit-oriented development, that housing, land use, and transit are like a three-legged stool. RTD is doing its part by working with developers interested in building on agency-owned land, and by creating a process that is easy to understand and guided by RTD's equitable transit-oriented development policy and unsolicited proposal policy. These mechanisms encourages developers to approach RTD with ideas to build on agency land. For example, the board recently approved an exclusive negotiation to build more than 800 units, including affordable housing at RTD's Central Park Station in Denver. Second, the state legislature also passed two bills, SB 24-230 and SB 24-184, that offer new funding sources available to RTD for operations and capital construction. While these funding sources will not be available immediately, they're well positioning RTD to integrate into future operations and planning. Currently, RTD's overarching plan for service delivery is set by a multi-year public process that was approved by the board in July 2020 and guides service delivery and expansion through 2026. And in my world, in the industry, we call that a comprehensive operational analysis, where we look out 3 to 5 years and then more long-term as we look at development, getting back to my three-legged stool analogy. And what RTD embarked upon right before the pandemic was a comprehensive operational analysis that was branded as Reimagine RTD. Kind of got stalled for a minute with the pandemic, but we went back to it. The reason why I broached that is since 2022, RTD has optimized service throughout the region, commensurate with people power availability quite naturally, and has provided an opportunity for the agency to better understand the new normal with regard to customer travel patterns. RTD will soon prepare for the next iteration of its comprehensive operational analysis and will utilize data to make informed decisions regarding how transit and where transit services will best provide value to customers and the communities that we serve. RTD's board will receive an update in July of 2025 that will include a review of route-by-route changes that have taken place since July of 2022, an indication as to whether the 2027 revenue service hour targets, and what I mean by that when we actually have buses in service, are still on track and achievable. Because there's so many different things. One element that we know for certain, the only thing certain about change is change. So we can't stick with something that we did. We have to remain flexible and agile and go back and do a refresher and engage in dialogue about what might be working and what might not be. Hence, that's why the pilot programs through the partnership are so important. And so, any proposed modifications recommended by staff to the 2022 operational analysis will be taken into consideration along with the aforementioned statements I just made. And all proposed changes will be preceded by thorough outreach and engagement with customers and stakeholders during the first and second quarters of 2025. Your voices and ideas will be critical during this process. And please hear me, this isn't rhetoric because we've seen through the Fair Study and Equity Analysis what that yielded. And we have to start thinking about what is possible, not just focusing on what was done in the past. The plan will continue to evolve with your input. So to conclude my remarks, I would be remiss if I did not speak with you about the Northwest Rail Peak Service Feasibility Study. Everybody's been talking about the train to Boulder. I came here, I inherited, I'm not shying away from it, trying to figure out how we can collectively hear something go choo-choo somewhere soon, right? And so, as it relates to where the project stands, for anyone in this room who's unfamiliar, and maybe that's one or two of you, the first section of Northwest Rail, known as the B Line, currently operates between Denver Union Station and Westminster Station at 72nd Avenue. So the Northwest Rail, that's a mouthful, Peak Service Feasibility Study identifies the requirement, costs, and operational needs to upgrade existing track, develop rail stations, and provide peak service. And I do want to say, when we launched this study, it was done intentionally and purposefully by garnering the support of people along the alignment. I can remember vividly having conversations with elected officials as I was somewhat new and trying to figure out what those pain points were because I heard about it, but it was important that we had an understanding of the common set of facts. I'm one that operates from a design thinking mindset, and before you can solve the problem for which you're solving, you first have to understand the pain points to define what that problem is and then ideate as it relates to solutions. So keeping that as a backdrop, the findings and recommendations from the study will help RTD and others determine the feasibility of extending rail service through an initial peak service approach, defined as 3 weekday morning trips from Longmont to Denver and 3 weekday evening trips from Denver to Longmont. Of course, this is a long-term project, and everyone involved is working to complete a common set of facts that would provide a full understanding of the feasibility of peak service as well as requirements for implementation. The continuation of Northwest Rail to Longmont offers opportunities for possible partnership with entities like the Front Range Passenger Rail District. We know we just heard from Commissioner Levy. She serves on the Front Range Passenger Rail. I serve as an ex officio member, so I can offer my voice, and so we can leverage those partnership and synergies as we go forward. While there are many challenges to be discussed, the potential to collaborate with Front Range Passenger Rail presents a possible change to the feasibility of implementing the Northwest Rail service. RTD has developed a cooperative relationship with Front Range Passenger Rail, as well as with CDOT, and is working with BNSF, the Class 1 railroad that owns and operates along the alignment, to identify the requirements needed to support passenger service in the Northwest Corridor toward a peak service concept. RTD sees a path forward for Northwest Rail using the BNSF corridor, provided the project is feasible. That's the operative word, as well as operationally sound. The best opportunities arise when an agency or partnerships of agencies, as illustrated by CDOT, RTD, and Front Range Passenger Rail, leverage opportunities to optimize operational efficiencies, which this group has done and will continue to do. The remaining question now seems to be about what agencies RTD can partner with to realize peak service. So to put it bluntly with all of you, we are coming on the tail end of our feasibility study. We need information from BNSF, and we're waiting to get those costs because that's the foundation upon ascertaining the feasibility aspect. And as we talk about our partners with Front Range Passenger Rail, we are further in the process than they are since RTD commissioned this feasibility study, but that's where the synergies come into play, because the basic foundation of what's gleaned from the feasibility study can lay the tracks as we go forward to see what could come to fruition through that leverage partnership or perhaps joint operations. But now, I know I speak kind of quickly and I was providing you with a lot of information today. I thank you for your time and attention, and I encourage you to continue to engage with me and my team on each of these topics. It is through continued dialogue and collaboration that RTD and its stakeholders and partners can shape transit to best serve customers and communities throughout the region. So thank you very kindly. That concludes my prepared remarks. I will now yield the floor. Where do you want me to go?
You can either stay standing there, or if you'd like to take a seat.
Oh, I can stay standing.
All right, I'm just here to grab a microphone, everybody. Hello, perfect. All righty. Let's look at some questions for you. Okay. First question. What can we as business community members do to strengthen RTD, helping it become more ubiquitous, convenient, and resilient?
Thank you very much for the question. Simply put, we're better together. And as relates to RTD, for all intents and purposes, we have a massive service area, 2,342 square miles, comprised of 40 municipalities within 8 counties. So as we talk about the service delivery model, it's more or less coalescing around what it is that we collectively need to do. I know oftentimes, and I'll say this, I've heard the acronyms, RTD is the reason to drive. Let's lean into the moment and figure out how we can collectively make it better. One thing's for certain, I can't talk about certain things because I'm in my public capacity, but we heard a little shout out earlier as relates to funding and things that may change the trajectory of where RTD is. I ask you to be the voice of the voiceless and lean into the moment and put forward ideas. No idea is a bad one. And so as we talk about what we can do, be that advocate. And let's assume good intention, because as it relates to RTD, it has grown exponentially in reference to the expectations. And that's why I often say we are the R in RTD, because we're a regional transit service provider. But on the flip side, people are expecting that localized service. This entity was never created and didn't have the resource to provide that localized service. And so that's what I would share. Lean in, reach out, engage with me. As I said, Eric Davison is here. He can give a quick little wave. Michael Davies, my government relations officer, who is well engaged and informed and has an understanding of what it is that we're doing. We have other staff as well. We're willing to come out and speak with you and have brainstorming sessions. So that's what we can do.
Thank you very much. much. Oh, thank you. Next question. What can we do to guarantee RTD prioritizes funding of the Northwest Rail Line with or without federal funding?
Okay, fair question, and I'm going to answer it very direct. The Northwest Rail is not eligible for federal funding, so that's clear on its own. And that's what I want to be very direct about. It doesn't meet the criteria as established for like a new rail starts program at the federal government level. And so as we talk about prioritizing it, collectively, the board of directors has a decision to make as we think about where that project rests, because we have some other projects within the fast track portfolio that have yet to come to fruition. And so from a prioritization vantage point, once again, make your voices heard. Put forward the best case scenario. As we talk about monies, this is why it's so important as we look at the operational efficiencies, because where we stand today, it's a well-known fact. RTD does not have enough money to deliver on that project in the very near term. So as we talk about what may lie ahead with Front Range Passenger Rail, it is very important that we are leaning in to sort of glob on to those other projects that have that momentum, because I believe that most people want to have a viable means of transport. It doesn't matter if RTD operates it, if it's a third-party entity, and I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just showcasing generally people want to get to where they need to go when they want to get there, regardless of who the operator is. And so as I have shared with many people and with my colleagues at those entities, i.e. be it CDOT, within the governor's office, within Front Range Passenger Rail, I am very amenable to ensuring that we can optimize those efficiencies, whatever that may be. But I would encourage you to talk with your representatives from the RTD Board of Directors, get involved in those discussions, and participate with Front Range Passenger Rail in addition to RTD.
Thank you. May I ask you just one more question?
Yes, you may.
Okay. That's exciting. All right. What reforms to the RTD board structure do you think are worth pursuing during the 2025 legislative session?
Well, thank you very much for that question. So here we go. I report to the RTD board. Do you think I'm dumb enough to stand up here and tell you what you should do with my bosses? I was not born yesterday. But in a hypothetical world, let me be clear. For all intents and purposes, as it relates to a board of directors, to me, I'm agnostic as it relates to how they get on the board of directors. If they're directly elected by a constituency, if they're elected officials that are appointed, or if they're community members. For all intents and purposes, I want individuals that have an understanding of transportation policy, that understand regulatory compliance, land use, public financing. That's incredibly important. So as we talk about what would be optimal, having individuals with that foundational knowledge that can support whomever's leading the organization in that capacity of being a chief executive officer of a major transit agency, to have that partnership. The board does not need to be the subject matter expert in that realm. That's why they have the seat of which I currently occupy. But thinking futuristically, whoever sits in the seat that I hold needs to have true partnership. So Eric Davidson is here. Why don't y'all ask him that question afterwards?
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for sharing those valuable insights. Back to Rachel. We'll close out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you all this afternoon.
Thank you, Deborah. That was incredible to listen to. And thank you also to all of our panelists. I think Claire put the leave and Levy maybe left. But thank you also to Claire. I couldn't resist. Thank you, Tara, for laughing at that. Okay, so I really appreciated the We're Better Together. And I think Judy was talking about, Representative Amabile was talking about how you don't have business without employees and employees without business. And I think it's the same with business and government. So all of us are intertwined. We would not have government without business support. We would not have businesses without government providing the infrastructure and such that we need. So let's please build on our positive momentum and continue to advance Boulder as a thriving economic powerhouse dedicated to the progress of Boulder businesses and our entire community. Once again, thank you to our speakers, and a round of applause, please, for Mayor Brockett, Representative Amabile, Blair Levy, Deborah Johnson. Thank you to all of you for being here, and thank you to E-Town for this wonderful space and the awesome air conditioning. Thank you again to our presenting sponsor, Elevations Credit Union, without whom this would not have been possible. Thank you also to those who work so hard behind the scenes to make things like this happen. I'm not going to get everybody, but it includes Devin, Maye, Erica, Megan, Courtney, Darcy, Kelly, and Emily, and others. So could we give a round of applause for the invisible people who make these events work? And finally, some housekeeping for today. The event will be available on our website next week. We will email it to all of you who RSVP'd, and it will be available to those who were not here as well. And again, our hearts go out to those who got waylaid due to the fire. And please mark your calendars for a new Boulder Chamber signature event, which will be coming out later this fall. Early bird tickets go on sale tomorrow for November 20th. Leading Change, Harnessing the Power of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Business. Thank you again for joining us today. Stay safe out there from the fires and the heat, and we are adjourned.